SMTB.
Three Tenets Podcast.
Three Tenets Podcast.
Welcome to the Three Tenets Podcast, the show that gives an in-depth look at Army National Guard recruiting, retention, and attrition management with soldiers in the field and instructors at the schoolhouse, as well as updates from the Strength Maintenance Training Battalion.
I'm Caly Allen.
And I'm Richard Frandt, and this is the Three Tenets Podcast.
Today we get to sit down and talk with Sergeant First Class James Reyes. Sergeant Reyes is a former RRNCO turned Marketing NCO. Now, after 3.5 years, he is back on the streets recruiting again. Welcome to the Three Tenets Podcast, Sergeant Reyes.
How's it? Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you here.
Well, normally we start with these podcasts and we interview people from different aspects of the Guard or when they come in here at SMTB. And normally what we ask them is, tell us your Guard story. Like, how did you get in this seat today? What led you to decide you wanted to serve your country and make it all the way up to E7? You're a assistant platoon leader in Hawaii National Guard, multiple D-54 winner. Tell us how you got there.
I joined right out of high school back in 2000. Prior to that, maybe my junior year, my mom passed away. And then with that, my dad, he developed a lot of health problems and stuff like that. So he ended up moving to the mainland with his siblings. He has a lot of siblings back there. And so I ended up staying by myself. My brother was gone, and then it was just me back at home, back in Maui. And so, my junior and senior year being alone and just making it as a high school student, I needed a little direction. I was kind of a knucklehead back then too. So, my neighbor and my really good friend Christy, her dad was in the military. He was in the Guard. He was a supply sergeant over there, and he was hanging out with one of the recruiters at his house, and he was like, "Hey, go talk to that guy down the street." That's me. So he came down the street and he started talking stories with me, and he's like telling me about the Guard and some opportunities, and I kind of wanted to go to college. That was my mom's dream for me to go to college. And then he gave me kind of a way to do a lot of this stuff, right? So I kind of bit, and I was like, you know what? I give him a shot. And so it was probably the easiest enlistment he ever got.
And what year did you enlist?
2000.
2000.
So, he told me you get two options, truck driver or infantry.
Yes.
Back at that time, I never even know what infantry was.
Yeah. You'll love it.
But I had one of my friends, my friend Michael Rogasa. We went high school together. He was on the poster. And I was like, what does Rogs do? Infantry. I was like, put me down.
There you go.
If he can do it, guarantee I can do him.
Your neck and your
Love
back
it.
will thank you later.
Then I went to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Yeah.
I was like, bruh, he never do all of this stuff. It was kind of tough, especially, it's kind of short and watching all these long-legged guys ruck march and stuff. I was trying to keep up. I was running with them. I was like, oh, this sucks. But then after a while, got used to it. And then it was fun. And then came back home. A couple years later was deployment, OIF. Forget what it was, OIF 3 or 4 or whatever. We deployed in 2004. After the deployment, we became a 91 Bravo, and we became engineers. So then after that, I transferred units to Aviation 777 as a communications guy. And then I was there for maybe about a year till I went to Bravo Troop, Cav unit, and stayed there for maybe about 2 years. And then I became a 25 Bravo with JFHQ. Then I transferred to brigade, and then I got picked up in recruiting.
So when it comes to recruiting, because you were in recruiting back in 2014 is what you said, when you started SQI4 and all that, and then you went away to marketing for a while, which still has a play in recruiting, retention, and attrition management. But then you came back to recruiting. How is that different from then to now? About that 10-year gap almost.
I mean, I think recruiting always will stay the same. talking to people, networking. I mean, that was the biggest thing that I used to love. That's what I love about recruiting, just the networking with people. Just the processing is a lot more crazy, like they got this Genesis thing out now and all these other forms that come with processing an applicant. It's like before, when you had the perfect applicant, we called it the paperclip packet, right? It was like a small packet like this. No, even that guy has like a thick, binder to just enlist. I'm like, wow.
Well, and we were talking before we started the podcast today, we were talking about the logistics that you've got let's talk about that. So what island are you on?
I'm on Oahu.
Okay. And so you recruit on how many islands?
I recruit only on Oahu.
Okay.
And in an area, so our area is centrally located. So
okay.
We have everything from Caly to IL, pretty much. And we also have the Big Island.
And you were talking about your recruiters, like when they're sending someone to MEPS, what island is MEPS on?
It's only on Oahu.
It's only on Oahu. So if they're on one of the other islands,
they got to fly in.
The recruiters have got to put them on a plane and send them to MEPS. Obviously, it's an overnight deal. Now, how many days does it take for you to process at MEPS? 2?
It should be 1.
Should be 1. You do it all in one shot, ASVAB and physical, test, phys, and list. And
they have like a ASVAB Met site over there, like they can do.
Okay. So they'll knock that out before you actually pay for shipping to get them over.
Yeah, and then they'll try and fizz and enlist their way over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then for drill, we're talking about that you have to do DTS a lot of times.
Yes.
For them to fly over. So there's some logistics involved in actually being in the Guard in Hawaii and then recruiting in the Guard in Hawaii.
Oh yeah. A lot of the outer islands, they have it real hard, the outer island recruiters too, and like especially like Maui and stuff like that, they're limited on vacancies as well, So they have an engineering company, so anything outside of engineering, they have to. Their soldier is drilling on Oahu, and they have to fly every month to Oahu, so sometimes it gets a little tough, but the units help out and everybody helps out, so
that's good. And you were and I know that you haven't mentioned it, but how many times have you won the D54 for the state of Hawaii?
I won it twice.
You won it twice. Okay.
Yeah.
And they've kind of like what we in Arkansas would call it the Corliss-Williams rule. We've Corlissed you where you can't be D54 anymore. So, but you won it twice. Talk about that. Like, what are some things you do that make you successful in Hawaii?
For me, where I live, that community, I'm heavily involved in there. We coach baseball with a lot of the kids. I'm just always out in the community, and
everybody knows you.
Being on an island, when you network a lot, you tend to know everybody knows everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So, I'm out a lot.
A lot of referrals.
I get a lot of referrals.
That's an understatement too, because you travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
And everyone from the 54 knows who you are.
Yeah.
I like to have fun too.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yeah. No, I think that when it comes to you and your community and everything that you do, tell us a little bit about, as the Marketing NCO, the events you put together, like the softball events and things like that.
So we just had the softball event this past month, January, Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. We had about 20 high schools involved, all high school softball players. We threw a nice big tournament for them down in Sand Island, and it was a great turnout. We even prior to that, so it was a Saturday, Sunday tournament. That Friday, everybody came in with their families, and we gave like a guard brief, and we even had I don't know if you know who Angela Lee is. She was like a 6 or 7 time world champion for MMA, and she came out and she has this nonprofit talking about what do you call it, mental health.
Okay.
And mental health in sports, because I don't know if you know, like, so she just retired last year when her sister passed away. Mm-hmm. And so after she passed away, she developed this thing called Fight Story. And she talks about mental health and, especially within sports and, how to overcome and adapt to any kind of crazy situations, right? So she's a big advocate on females and everything like that, right? So I really like when she can come and tell her story and even talk to soldiers or whatnot, because mental health is like a pretty big thing for us in the military, right?
Yeah.
And she's a very well-known person, and she, everybody likes talking with her.
What would you recommend that like other states should do following your like what Hawaii does? I feel like y'all are a good example about that.
A majority of our recruiters are like school. A lot of them like to do school recruiting, right? They get into their high schools. They're very heavily involved in their high schools.
Which is our target market.
Yeah, our biggest target market. We have the buy-in from all the high schools. They'll let us do whatever we want. We support them 100%. So I guess that's where just this. Like everybody does it, but for me, I like to do things. I like to target different things, right? Like so, the softball tournament. We hardly have a lot of females in the in the guard, so I wanted to do something for the females, right? And like when we're talking marketing, if you don't notice all the things that I bring to PEC and stuff like that, my RPIs or PPIs, it's like I try and stay within our culture. I tailor everything towards the Hawaii culture as much as possible. Look for what's in and stuff like that. But my thing is just get involved with as much as you can. I like branding and advertising. My thing is you want everybody in your area when they think about the military, they're thinking of the Hawaii Army National Guard. They're thinking about the National Guard. You know what I mean? Like I want them to everywhere they look at, they're seeing it. Everything they hear on the radio. They're going to hear it,
Like if they're thinking about the military, their first thought is the Hawaii National Guard.
Because it's everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And, like I said earlier, when we make all of our gear, all of our swag and stuff like that, I try and make quality stuff and stuff that, can tie into the culture of Hawaii,
Yeah, you definitely do. Yeah, you partner a lot with locals and you do a lot of shirts, like the golf shirts, the polos. You did that. That's a local company. Yeah. Your rain jackets that you did, that's a local company, things like that. Yeah,
I try and use all local vendors.
Which kind of helps you. Not only do you get a branded product, but you've helped a local that you never see if that's going to be you never know when that's going to be a force multiplier. The guy that owns that place that made your rain jackets goes, man, that Reyes guy is solid. He's done a lot of business with him. I like him. He's a good guy. Here's who you should call if you're thinking about paying for college or whatever.
Local people helping out local people, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How would that, because I feel like, not that it's easier, but it almost feels like it's easier. Like Hawaii really is one big family there, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when it comes to other states, it doesn't always feel like that with other states. And maybe they don't have vendors like that in the States. So what would your advice be for those type of people? Or like, have you seen states outside of Hawaii that partnered with vendors inside their own state?
I know a lot of our SMAG 7, they do a lot of local vendors, but
is that like Nevada, California?
Arizona especially.
Okay.
Nevada, California, they're all good. I mean, I feel like our rack is pretty solid.
Yeah.
And we collaborate every now and then. We have a group thread. We talk stories. We always share ideas, and I don't know. I think with all the other states, I would encourage to use local vendors, and if not, use my local vendors. We'll always take the extra aloha in Hawaii.
I wish you could see some of the reels that they've posted. Maybe we'll show you afterwards. But like he was showing me a reel or like a video last night, and it was pretty much like you could see, I don't know, 15 recruiters out there.
Oh, yeah.
The social media NCO. I'm sure he was out there. He wasn't on the video, but I'm sure he was out there with them.
Trying to stay out of it.
But, a lot of the times you struggle in a state to get 2 or 3 people out at an event. And it shouldn't be like that.
I would do entire fairs in my county, and it would be like me and an ADOS all day long. By ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing, especially with our teams over there is we have a very, each team, they gel together, I can talk for our team especially. And again, we're all different, you know what I mean? We all kind of different personalities, but we all gel together. And so if anybody needs help, everybody's always willing to help. Like, I'm over here in Arkansas, and I have somebody going on the floor on Thursday. They're taking care of everything, you know? So it's like everybody got each other's back over there. And, you know, when somebody has an event, if they're available, everybody's willing to jump in and help at an event. So I think that helps out a lot.
So do you have, does your team traditionally succeed mission-wide? Like when you finish your mission, you're turning around and helping the next guy and the next guy. Like everybody's going to make their mission.
Well, that's the plan this year.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, me coming back to the field, I even told my section chief, I told him, you know what, hey, as soon as my mission's done, focus is going to be the rest of the team. You know, I want everybody to get badge upgrades. That's the number one priority, badge upgrades, you know, and then making mission. And then, you know, if it's within our means, we're going to go and we're going to win everything, you know, Rookie of the Year, Directors 54. We're going to try and sweep everything, you know.
So we were talking about a lot of the opportunities the Guard has offered, but the Guard's offered you some opportunities too, and you just graduated from RLC. Mm-hmm. What did you take away from that, and what were your thoughts on the class itself?
That RLC was probably one of my favorite classes.
And who were your instructors?
We had Mr. Parker and Mr. Noggle.
Okay.
Yeah, both great ones.
Both great instructors. You know, I learned a lot from them. But I think the biggest advantage I had is I went up with my section chief as well. So, Master Sergeant Christian Stasco, my section chief. So me and him went together, and I think that was so beneficial. Like, now we are on the same page, you know. We kind of learned everything that needs to be done as a section chief, and, you know, I now know where his vision is going towards, and we can kind of mirror it off of each other, and I can, you know, helping the team is going to be a lot easier in this way. But I love that course.
It's going to help you when you make section chief too, right?
Oh yeah, when they were teaching that course, there was a lot of these things. I was like, man, if I knew this as a recruiter, I would put in like extra, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Crazy numbers.
So you were at RLC, and now you're currently at the Marketing Working Group at SMTB, but this is not the first 2 times you've been here. You've been here about 1 million times, right? So what do you see a benefit of coming to SMTB, to PEC?
I think it's benefited me a lot, you know? Like, I've networked with so much people over here, and, like, a lot of times when I have questions, I'm calling everybody up, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And especially, like, with these working groups, these things are great to come for, you know? Like, you get to see a policy and regulation on how it gets built, you know? Mm-hmm. And
from the foundation, from like the place where it originates.
Yeah, and you see a class on how it's going to be developed in the class. And it's just like, that's a lot, you know? And it gives you an upper hand to me. I mean, you actually know all the regulation already, you know? It's like, it's getting embedded in your brain while you're here. So.
Yeah, and you're kind of able, because you're with the Marketing Working Group right now, so you're able to develop, although you're not a Marketing NCO anymore, you're able to develop the new Marketing NCOs about to come in and take the new course.
Yeah.
So you're trying to put in that material and that knowledge that you've gained over the years.
Oh, yeah. So guarantee, you know, when Sergeant Fowell comes up over here, we're going to make sure he's going to be the honor grad.
You know, I hope that when people leave a class like you did with RLC, or if you're in a working group for marketing or whatever, if you'll go back and train that next group. I always say when you get to the mountaintop, turn around and put your hand out, because, you know, somebody's behind you that needs help getting up there too. And I would hope that someone as successful as you are and as motivated as you are goes back and is a force multiplier, and maybe teaches 5 other people to be exactly what Sergeant Reyes has been, you know.
That's the plan. I mean, even going to any of these schools over here, something about the schoolhouse or whatnot, like, it fires you up when you go home. You know what I mean? It kind of lights the fires, like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to get home. I know what I'm going to do, you know, like, this is all, you know, while it's fresh in my head, let's go, you know.
Yeah.
And it's when you get back home, you're, like, just trying to hit the ground running. So
we definitely love to hear that here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. So we like to ask at the end of the podcast if there's any advice you might have for listeners or anything that we didn't ask you that you might want to talk about on the podcast.
When we go to the high schools, I want everybody to like have a plan. Just go over there with a plan. Don't just go over there just to hang out every day. You know, kind of look like a creep when you do that kind of stuff. Just go over there with a plan. You know, meet. So I'm gonna go to my high school and say, hey, I'm gonna meet 2 different teachers. I'm going to try and set an appointment to talk in 2 different classes or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But have a plan and, you know, be there often, not every day, but be there, you know, once a week, twice a week, depending on if you have any, you know, appointments or whatnot. But be present, you know. These guys are going to remember you, you know, like, and once you put somebody in from the high school, I mean, or put anybody in, you need to pull out that red carpet and take care of these guys. You know, one of the things that I used to do when I was in AL high school, every time I'd enlist somebody, every week I'd buy that guy food. Mm-hmm. And then I'd get more and more, right? People that joined in. Every week they would always get a plate lunch from whatever they wanted. Because we get this money from recruiting as well, right? So,
and you'll gladly pay that out of pocket to make that mission early. Yeah.
And so these guys are over there like, oh, how are you guys always getting lunch? Sergeant Reyes, hook us up every week.
Starts the conversation.
And so they introduce me to a lot of their friends. You know, we talk stories. I'll sit down with them once in a great while they're eating their lunch. And then, you know, we talk story. And eventually it just kind of multiplies, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, you always got to take care of your soldiers. Even after the enlistment and everything like that, I still maintain a lot of contact. I've been out of the field for 5 years. I still talk to a lot of my soldiers that I've put in. I mean, that's, to me, taking care of soldiers is, you know, the biggest thing that I could preach, right?
What I've seen is I see recruiters go, okay, I got those 2. And if you'll go back every once in a while and circle around to them, what I have found is that not only did it help me make my mission then, even though I've been retired for a year now, those guys call me. And now they're E5s and E6s, and one of them's up for E7. And they come back and go, man, I remember how you treated me. That's how I treat my guys. And they're not in recruiting. They're just team leaders or whatever. And that's when you realize that you're mentoring and teaching them, and you're working on your mission.
Take care of people, people take care of you, right?
Yep.
You know, so I've always lived by that.
Well, thank you, Sergeant Reyes, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We're so glad that you came. Thanks for listening to the 3 Tenets podcast. Before we go, be sure to follow us on social media if you haven't already, and be on the lookout for our monthly 3 Tenets newsletter. Then stay tuned for next month's episode where we get to meet up with another special guest.